Hello, my name is Laura Svancarek. I'm Interim Executive Director at Downtown on the Go. We are the nonprofit advocate and resource for all things transportation in the greater Tacoma area. This presentation was originally prepared for Cascade Bicycle Club's Bike, Walk, and Roll Summit, which was held in Tacoma in September 2024. It was part of a panel on how to effectively engage with elected officials for active transportation. I was asked to record this presentation, and it is mostly unchanged. Downtown on the Go is a 501c4 nonprofit organization. Our mission is to create a community where everyone can get around with or without a car. We are the transportation advocate for anyone whose life is in the greater Tacoma area. And to guide us in that work, we advocate, educate, encourage, and champion walking, biking, and using transit. We do this in a variety of ways. We host a variety of different types of community events. We categorize them most often under Talk Tacoma, Ride Tacoma, Bike Tacoma, and Walk Tacoma. Talk Tacoma are our advocacy-focused events. Every winter we do a Friday Forum series where we bring in local community leaders and subject matter experts to talk about topics relevant to Tacoma that are related to transportation, like sustainability, housing, youth mobility. This photo at the top left is from a book event that we hosted with Anna Zivarts and Tom Fucaloro, who came down to Tacoma to have kind of a social and book reading to talk about their books around accessible mobility and history of mobility. On the top right, you can see a photo from our transit trivia. This was an event that we've done for a number of years now that we host in partnership with Pierce Transit and with Pierce County's program called Ride Together Pierce. This is a really fun way to bring transit advocates together for something silly and let people get to know each other. It's been really a joy to be able to continue hosting that event for Ride Transit Month and celebrating So I'm going to switch gears and talk now about what we do to build and maintain strong relationships with local leaders. Something that we've done over the last couple of years is we do transportation candidate interviews. So we invite candidates to come out onto local transit with us to actually go out and physically ride the bus or the light rail. And we ask them questions about transportation. This is really effective in a variety of ways. I think this really pushes candidates to form opinions about transportation. This is a topic I find that people either think about a lot or rarely think about at all, at least in a tangible, meaningful policy type of way. And so by providing the candidates with these questions and inviting them out to come answer them, they have to really think about their thoughts on transportation issues and opportunities, both in the city as a whole and within their district specifically. This is also a great opportunity for us to have some face-to-face time with these local leaders, regardless of if they win their election or not. The videos themselves of the interviews end up being about 10 minutes long, but on the whole, they spend about 40 to 50 minutes with us, depending on what bus route we're doing. And that gives us an opportunity to have some more meaningful conversations that don't get recorded by the camera, to talk about different opportunities and issues that they may not be aware of, and to just like really have that opportunity to talk face to face. And it's important to note as well that even when people don't win their elections, they ran for a reason. They're almost certainly still active members of the community, probably still community leaders, and people that you're going to continue to see in different places. So it's very valuable to start to build those relationships and to be able to maintain them, make that really good first impression, and then maintain them over time. One of my favorite events that we host every year is called Pedal with Politicians. This is a bike event. The goal of this event is to bring together community members, project managers, and elected officials, get us all out on bikes together on the same infrastructure, experiencing the same things together, and giving folks an opportunity to have really real in the moment conversations. We're trying to break down barriers between these different levels, right? Between our decision makers, our project developers and implementers at the city staff level, and then the actual users, the regular people who are out there using the infrastructure that we make. And so in this event, we highlight new infrastructure in the downtown Hilltop Tacoma area, and we talk about what projects are coming up to get people excited, but to also highlight opportunities to plug in and give feedback early on so we can ensure that the projects that are being completed are designed to best serve all users. You know, so bike infrastructure is really built for, designed by, with cyclists in mind to make sure that we're getting those really good end products. So in 2024, we had about 50 attendees for our Pedal with Politicians event, which is a lot of people to keep safe on a group ride, I will say. And we had in attendance Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodards, as well as 2 Tacoma City Council members. We also had Pierce County Council Chair Ryan Mello that came out and rode with us. And we had a good number of city staff as well who were there just to listen more broadly, but also some folks there to talk about the specific projects that they are working on that we were highlighting. And this year we were able to do something really cool. The City of Tacoma is working on updating its comprehensive plan. That means also updating the Transportation Master Plan. And it was one of our goals as an organization this year to find ways to get people involved with the TMP update process and get people really giving meaningful feedback. And so we were able to work with city staff to add an open house to the beginning of this event. And this is very much in partnership with our friends at Second Cycle Community Bike Shop, both for helping us with ride safety and management during the actual ride, but giving us the space to be able to host this open house as well. So if we had 50 attendees that came and participated in the open house and then also biked with us, we had at least 10 more that came just for the open house. And this was an opportunity to give some really good feedback. So this type of event not only shows kind of breaks down those barriers with the decision makers and builds rapport. It is also an opportunity to show like, hey, we're bringing people in, we're getting people to engage with the conversation, and we're providing meaningful feedback in that way. It helps to build trust of our organization. So kind of in that same vein, one of our goals as an organization is to encourage public comment, to break down barriers for regular community members who are interested in these topics of safety and mobility and transportation, and help them to feel comfortable and confident and in the know, to be able to provide comment and meaningful feedback through local processes, right? So we organized public comment days. 2 years ago, we did a speak up for walking and biking in the city of Tacoma budget, and we'll be doing that again this year. It's a biennial budget, so it's that time again. And in order to do that, we give people the information, like here's the time, here's the place, here's a person that you can sit with, here's someone who will review your comments to help you out. But then we also give people kind of a template and suggestions on how to frame their comments. So you can see one of those documents here giving, kind of step-by-step instructions on what is the most effective way to bring your story and your perspective in front of council to create a meaningful impact and hopefully have some influence over what kinds of decisions get made. Beyond those comment days, we also do a lot of trying to translate complicated policy documents and make them accessible for regular people who, again, already care about this stuff, just maybe have not been given the tools yet to be able to articulate the opinions that they already have. So we're trying to give people the tools they need to understand and engage meaningfully with what's already going on in their city and their local government. So you can see this other document here. This had to do with Home in Tacoma, which is a Tacoma process that's been going on for a couple of years, looking at rezoning and increasing density throughout the city with the end goal of increasing affordability in housing. That stuff is really wonky. That's really can be a lot if you're not used to reading these kinds of documents. And so we try to break it down. What are the key components that people need to know, and how is it related to our goals around transportation? And so by encouraging public comment in this way, we're not only bringing people in to engage and provide comment, but we're making sure that they do so in a way that is respectful, effective, on topic. It is always my goal that when we do these comment days, the commenters we bring in are going to be the most prepared, the most to the point, the most ready to go. And that doesn't mean that they're not passionate about this, but it means that we're prepared and we're clear. And then that's something that does help with, again, increasing your own reliability as an organization in the eyes of elected officials. One of the most important things to do when you're trying to build relationships with elected officials is to keep showing up. Downtown on the Go does a lot of proclamations. Proclamations in and of themselves are not necessarily effective, but what they are, like, they're not going to move the needle, but they are going to get what you're talking about in front of the electeds. It's an opportunity to bring in impactful stories. And it also, again, it gives them an opportunity to have to think about what you're talking about. And if you spend a lot of time at city council meetings, you know that elected officials love to make their statements on things. And so when we come forward with proclamations, it prompts them to consider, like, oh, do I have comments on this? Do I have things that I want to contribute to this conversation in a way that would not have happened if you were not there in front of them doing this proclamation? So sometimes it's not about what is going to create an immediate impact. It's about, how do I keep this on people's radar? How do I get electeds to consider this topic and think about it today? Um, I also I am personally on a significant number of advisory groups, committees, commissions. I just keep showing up in different places. And you'll find that once you start showing up, it's hard to stop. You start getting invited to participate in a lot of spaces, because you become known as a subject matter expert, as someone whose opinion is relevant to decisions and conversations that are happening at the local government level. And so to continue spending the time, investing the time in showing up in these spaces, that can do a lot with building your own, goodwill and standing. It's also helpful to just show up to things that are unrelated to what you are advocating for. I go to a lot of community events, and I go to them because I care about my community and I'm interested in what's happening in my community. And that can be very helpful when you run into elected officials in real life, to point out, like, oh, it's, Laura's not just the lady who comes and talks about buses and bike lanes all the time. She also comes to all of these different community events. She also continues to show up for her community and volunteer in these spaces. And obviously you have to prioritize your own, time and what you can manage and not overload yourself on these things. And I'm not saying that you should only go to community events to run into elected officials. That would be wild. But when you do run into them, it can be helpful for building long-term rapport and relationships that can pull back into the work that you're doing. So now we're going to shift gears again, and I'm going to talk about some advocacy work that we have been doing over the last couple of years, how that has played out and what is happening now. I have to be upfront at the start from this. This gets pretty heavy. This is not a fun topic. This isn't a successful community bike ride. This is advocacy and work around traffic violence and traffic deaths. So just be aware of that as we go into this conversation. On July 19th, 2022, a 13-year-old boy named Michael Weilert was struck and killed in a marked crosswalk with his bike and a friend of his while crossing Pacific Avenue State Route 7 in Parkland, Washington. Parkland is just south of Tacoma in unincorporated Pierce County. July 19th. On August 30th, 2022, the Pierce County Council adopted a Vision Zero resolution committing to a goal of 0 traffic deaths or serious injury by the year 2035. That is 1.5 months. That is basically an unheard of timeline in local policy development. So I'm going to talk about the work that we did, that our partners did, and that most importantly, the Weilert family did in order to make that happen, and then what has happened since then. So we work directly with the Weilert family and with our partners like Second Cycle Community Bike Shop, Cascade Bicycle Club, and Walk and Roll Pierce County to plan a Ride of Silence on August 7th, 2022. And for this Ride of Silence, we invited community members to come ride with us. We also invited a large number of elected officials, knowing that most of them would not come out and ride with us. Ultimately, I think we had 3. I think we had Tacoma City Council member Christina Walker, County Council member Janie Hitchen, and State Senator Tawana Nobles, who came out and did this Ride of Silence with us. But the purpose of inviting the electeds is not necessarily so that they'll come, it's so that they are aware of the issue and they are being asked directly to engage with a horrifically tragic event that happened within their region. And so that kind of pushes them to have to respond in some way and say, I'm not going to attend, but I'm thinking about this, but I'm going to take this type of action, and puts a little bit of pressure on them in that way. For the actual rite of silence, we had about 100 folks come out and ride with us, and we shut down about a mile of State Route 7 in order to do this. So this is a 5-lane surface highway. Speed limit's 35 most of the time. People are usually going at least 50 when they drive on this road. And so we shut down the 2 northbound lanes of SR7 for about a mile to make people uncomfortable and make people think about cyclists and our safety. In organizing this, there was a lot of things that we had to keep in mind, safety being paramount, knowing that drivers get very frustrated when you cause them to be slowed down or delayed in any way. And then, like, most importantly, making sure that this event was something that was good for Michael's family, that they felt empowered by it, and otherwise it simply would not have been an option to do it. So this had to be something in very close, meaningful collaboration with the Weilert family. So we did the Rite of Silence on August 7th, and you know, if I say so myself, I think it was very impactful and very meaningful to the folks that attended. That was kind of our big public display. From there, we tried to pack the room, knowing that we had allies at the county council, particularly Ryan Mello, current chair of the county council, knowing that we had allies that were really pushing to get Vision Zero through, and get it written and get it moving forward. So it was our job to pack the room with commenters, and the Weilert family really did that. And so in this photo, you can see Amber Weilert, Michael's mom, speaking in front of the council on the importance of traffic safety and the importance of Vision Zero. So similar to what I spoke about before, we provided informational materials to try to encourage folks to get involved, especially because this was at the county for unincorporated Pierce County rather than the city of Tacoma. There's a lot of advocates in Tacoma that don't know how to engage at the county level because it's different. They're actually very different processes and times, and it's different. So we tried to provide those materials on, like, why does this matter? When do you show up? How do you show up? Let's make this happen. And on August 30th, the Pierce County Council adopted the Vision Zero resolution. In about a month and a half, we pushed that through. Really incredible partnership from the electeds that we had been working with at the county council. It simply wouldn't have been possible without them. And so much of this comes off of the energy and the dedication from the Weilert family to show up and be loud and continue to show up in the face of really unimaginable tragedy and loss for their family, to continue to show up and say this isn't going to happen to anybody else. So things don't end after the resolution passes. That's only a resolution. It's not a plan. The county's working on the plan now. And then that engagement that we had started to do with other electeds, more broadly speaking, paid off as well. So Governor Jay Inslee came down and did a road traffic roundtable, road traffic safety roundtable, where he invited advocates to speak on the need for traffic safety improvements and what that could look like. So having that conversation directly with the governor. And then some of our state representatives, so Tawana Nobles, State Senator Tawana Nobles, organized another road safety roundtable type event where she and other policymakers at the state level came and looked at the space, looked at why did this happen, how can we stop it from happening again, and then also invited advocates in to have discussion on what the next steps needed to be. For World Day of Remembrance for road traffic victims, we co-hosted a press conference with Cascade Bicycle Club, and you can see in that photo again Amber Weilert speaking. Really, this isn't another example of just kind of being loud, of like, what happened here is unfortunately not unexpected because of the way that this roadway is designed. And during that press conference, which was directly in front of the crosswalk where Michael was killed, we watched two cyclists very nearly be hit in that crosswalk by a driver, which is incredibly disturbing to have happen while we're having this conversation. We also did, so that was in 2022, and then in 23 we did a proclamation with the city of Tacoma, again, bringing the topic forward, not letting people forget about this horrific thing that happened, and knowing that we're still tracking until this issue gets fixed. And what does that work look like now? So we're continuing to participate in advisory groups, myself and Amber Weilert and other partners from that 2022 group. Pierce County has their Vision Zero action plan that they're working on, so we're participating in that, as well as other endeavors at the state level around road safety, and just continuing to show up and keep asking questions about what's going on with these projects. So project tracking on there, that refers to specifically, we received a promise from the state that they would fix the crossings that Michael died in. It was a flashing beacon type of crossing, which is very inappropriate for this type of roadway. And so those are being replaced by, I believe, hawk beacons. So we're tracking progress on that. Originally, we were told it would be about 1 year, and then finding out it's going to be about 3 years in total. Honestly, for a state project, that's not that bad, but given that promises were made to the Weilert family, I believe that it's our job to continue pushing on this and tracking and bugging them about, like, okay, so where are we in this timeline? Where are we right now? How's it going? And then policy tracking, both at the local, the regional, and the state level. What policies are being put in place around road safety? And how are we meaningfully engaging and making progress on what is honestly an epidemic, a horrible problem that is just getting worse and worse and worse. So to me, this is where those relationships with electeds really come into play, both in getting the information, knowing when it's time to step back in and organize and get folks engaged, and then also knowing who to bug, who to keep asking questions to, who to ask to keep pushing, who's going to have the most influence on the folks at the state level. It's not going to be me as an advocate. It's going to be one of my elected officials that I collaborate with, that I have a good relationship with and is interested in these topics. They're going to be the one that's going to be able to push for policy or on projects and get those things continuing to move. So as far as State Route 7 is right now, that's where we're at. We're in kind of this tracking and monitoring period, but I think it's a great example of small good things happening out of incredible tragedy, and also the power of what can happen when you show up, when you invite decision makers in, when you continue to maintain those relationships and continue to show up. You can get some pretty incredible things done, sometimes on a pretty fast timeline. I'm going to end this here. Here's my contact information again. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and thank you for listening.